Welcome to the show, everybody. This is your host, JT. It is 8:44 a.m. on Sunday, the 28th of January, 2024. We are live in studio. With me, as always, I have Ron.
Hey, good
I have
morning.
Ryan. For those of you that missed the Dark Show, we learned a lot about me that you guys will not know until another Dark Show. I lost a lot of weight. It's been cold out. I'm wearing jeans now. I usually wear shorts, and we're back.
Yeah.
I didn't lose a lot of weight recently. It was 10 years ago. 12 years. Math is hard.
Yeah, we went through a whole journey with you on that one.
You guys learned a lot about me.
We did.
So.
And nobody else.
Nobody else heard that.
That's why it's a Dark Show. It's for the in-studio only. These bobbleheads learned so much about us.
It's
So.
our in studio.
You're not even using that camera.
Oh, good.
So see, that's kind of like the Dark Show, right?
Yeah, you know.
Nobody heard what happened. Well, nobody saw what you did right there.
Perfect.
I mean, they saw you did something, but and I'm sure people heard that we did. Ryan's about to lose it.
Oh.
And yeah,
Going
this is the joy of a live show. If we would have been recording to post later, that would have made the cut.
Yeah.
Would have made the show.
Oh, man.
Gentlemen, how we doing?
Great. Great.
Better than
Doing
me. So let's keep this in mind. There's a box on the on the screen that's normally never checked. You check it in order to, but now it's checked all of a sudden.
It's checked. It says live this time. We should be good.
I don't know if I hit it at it inadvertently.
Yeah, it's fine.
We're fine.
Awkward.
We can't
So-
panic. We're fine. We're fine.
We're fine. It's fine. As we
It's
learned in the
fine.
last show, it's always fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's never fine. Gentlemen, how are we?
Doing good. We
I'll let him go first.
Send
He's
our
farther.
Right.
we sent our oldest off to the Air Force. this
Nice.
week. Yeah. So
That's always awesome.
it is.
Except for him at the moment.
Well,
He may have settled in by now.
He's doing, I'm sure. So he called my wife, and for the first time in his life, he experienced emotions. Not a vocally emotional guy.
Sure.
Not at all.
Sure.
But he heard her voice for the first time after feeling, all the basic training. What did I get into type stuff?
I've been there. I've been there.
Yeah, same. And those emotions just kind of came out, and she got the brunt of it. So
You got
when
the lip quivering, hyperventilating.
oh yeah, he was yeah, couldn't breathe.
Yeah, can't talk for a good minute and a half of your 2-minute call.
Yeah,
Been there, done that. That's
exactly. And I did that. My mom doesn't think that it ever happened.
Right.
Well, it was more traumatic for me than it was for you. But
Oh, it happened, Mom.
my mom swears it didn't happen. I never called. I know I didn't write. I'm not perfect. I know
Sure.
that.
Well, no.
But I know I
sorry,
didn't write any letters. But I know I called it.
I know that I lip quivered for a good 45 seconds.
Yeah. It's as soon as you hear, your mom's voice, your
Oh, yeah.
dad's voice, whoever's significant in your life.
Yeah,
As soon as you
yeah.
hear them, you go, oh, and your life's over for that 2 minutes. It's fine. But he called me after calling
Yeah.
her. I got some words out and like a sentence or two. So that's cool. And I know that he's going to be doing okay.
Sure. Well, you've been through it.
I've been through it.
Yeah.
I get it.
That exact basic training.
Actually, same squadron even. We're
Wow,
yeah,
look
it's
at
pretty
you.
Cool. It's pretty
And that's random.
right. Yeah,
So-
I didn't make a call.
Well, but you don't get a pick. It's not.
No,
No.
right. But I didn't go, hey, I got to get him into. No, it just happened to work out that way, which is really cool because there's 6-8 different training squadrons for the Air Force.
Sure.
Happened to go in that one, which is really cool for me because he's going into such a different career field that our paths are about to split.
Sure.
For him being a flyer, me being a mechanic,
Right.
we're going to go different ways in the same machine, basically. Cool.
Right.
But it's neat to have that last little. And then after that phone call, my wife has done a bunch of different research. There's a YouTube video for every single week.
See, I
Wow,
didn't
you're-
have shit like that when I went through
No, there wasn't.
2004.
Barely the internet.
Hey, Not that old.
No, I went in 02. I get it. But
Sorry.
there
I just take
wasn't
offense to anything age
nobody-
related.
Yeah.
Because my
nobody
memory
knew.
clearly is slipping today.
But nobody could ever
Sure.
do that research ahead of time.
Sure.
Oh, what's going to happen in week 1, week 2, week 3?
Well,
There wasn't a
what's-
Facebook page.
What happens in the first 3 P days? Do you even make P7, or do you guys even have that in the Air Force?
I don't know what that is.
Pre-days.
Oh, yeah,
It doesn't
it's 0
start
week.
until you're
Yeah,
0 weeks. Which
You get your haircuts, you get your uniform.
Yeah. You go to medical, you go to dental, you go to vision.
Yeah, you do. Some
You get your
classroom stuff.
BCGs.
Yeah.
BCGs are the worst. I still have my BCGs. I should wear them sometime.
I would love to. So BCGs are birth control glasses.
Because they know when you're getting laid wearing those.
Nobody gets laid wearing those glasses.
Which is wrong because the
gosh.
first week that we were there, the front half of the compartment is for the incoming, the back half of the compartment is for the outgoing. Well, the outgoing group, and they split you on one side of the hallway as the men, one side of the hallway as the women, but they were co-ed units.
Yeah.
And so you have at night to mimic having you watch the back staircase and the front staircase, and then you have to alert the deck whenever officers coming aboard, yada, yada, yada.
Yep.
And so
Is every building in the Navy a ship?
yes, ship 1, ship 2, ship 3, ship 4.
They're decks, floors.
Yeah,
Like
floors are
humans.
decks.
Yeah.
No, they're humans would call them floors.
Yeah, well, so separations when I went through it was ship 15.
That's weird.
Yeah, and I was in the drugs and thugs compartment because people getting popped for UAs, fighting, stealing, reckless behavior, whatever. Or, but I was older. I was 26 when I went in, but so they thought I would be a good influence. So they put me in there. They made me yeoman first day. Which, whoa.
They said my mic was muted.
Yeah, so
No, it's not.
So you it's your computer mic.
Okay.
There it is. That echo brought to you by Ron in the United States Air Force.
You're welcome. Hey, stop it.
I just reading your hat.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, they made me yeoman, which means that I lined everybody up for all of the meals. I let all the lines go through to get chow. We went to the USO to get ours, so we got good meals every time.
Nice.
But I assigned work duty for those that could go out and do recycling or pick up trash or whatever.
Sure.
I was everybody's best friend, and then I was also the one that took everybody downstairs to make phone calls. So I got to make all the phone calls I wanted, and then take them downstairs to shower. So I got to shower all I wanted, and that's the only ship in the entire basic training regiment, all the divisions that had dividers in between the showers. It wasn't the recruit car wash to where you're just going through and you rinse, clean, rinse, clean, rinse, clean. It's great. But anyway, back to the main story because I rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Ooh, shiny. But the women were on one side, the men were on the other side. They were watching their respective back hallways. Well, 2 of them got caught in the middle of the night having sex by an officer.
Ooh.
So the next day he got to tell his parents why he wasn't graduating.
Ooh.
And they were supposed to graduate the next day.
Oh.
Dude, just
She got
wait.
to tell her husband why she wasn't graduating.
Oh.
Yeah, that face right there that Ron's making. Yeah.
That's not
Bad.
good. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
they
worse.
got caught.
That's worse.
They
Yeah.
got caught in
Not
the
only
hallway.
am I not graduating, but
Yeah, I had an affair and I'm getting dishonorably discharged.
and if anybody knew the glasses, I assume he was wearing.
I don't know if he
That
was
still
or
happened
not.
or not. Okay.
But I don't know who it was because we weren't able to speak to anybody, let alone
Right.
I don't
Yeah, I got you.
didn't know a name.
Yeah.
And they were all gone that very next day anyway,
Right,
graduation.
just so quick. Yeah. But yeah, so we sent him off to basic training.
Moral of the story.
Getting back here to your weird tornado.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I lost 6 minutes earlier. Hold it against me.
Apparently I did.
I blacked out.
But
Thank God your wife got that. Though.
yeah. Whew. Savior.
Yeah. Right? You picked a good
Yeah, so
one.
we got Daniel off to basic training. He's
Good.
doing good. He's gonna week 2, 3. We were looking at all the agendas for what basic training is gonna
Sure.
entail, and he's gonna flourish. He's gonna do
Good.
amazing things. So we have high hopes for him.
Good.
So,
As you should.
yeah.
I mean, I never met the gentleman, but from all accounts, from everything you told me, he sounds like he's going to go far.
Oh yeah. He's
He's going
got
to do well.
the world ahead of him.
Sure.
So he's gonna do That guy just rode by on a motorcycle. There's ice on the ground.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's intense.
You know what they call those in the ER? Organ donors.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
Wow. There that is.
I resemble that remark.
I've ridden motorcycles for 20 years and I'm still here.
I'm talking about the guy riding by on ice.
Oh yeah, I have common sense. Yeah. So,
You know what my dad said about common sense?
it's not very common.
It's like deodorant. Those that need it the most don't use it.
Ooh.
Shaboom.
Hey, the old man had some quick ones. So he was also from dairy farm in western Oklahoma. So he had a lot of weird ones too.
Ones that really didn't make sense. But it's fine.
Yeah. It's hotter than two ferrets fucking in a wool sock. What?
What?
I mean, it paints a picture.
Does it?
It does.
It really does.
It
Like,
does.
that's got to be hot.
And it's definitely not what it is outside right now.
No.
No.
He was also Army Special Forces in Vietnam, so he had some weird ones. Yeah. He ate monkey brains.
Okay.
I don't like it.
I think
Sounds
that's
terrible.
where COVID came from, I think.
Have you guys
Yeah.
seen Mr. Deeds? I think it's Mr.
Yeah.
Deeds.
Yeah.
Some people eat bugs. Ew.
Ew.
No, it wasn't. It was Dead Man on Campus.
Yeah, it wasn't
That's
Mr.
what it's
Deeds.
from, yeah.
No.
I was picturing Steve Buscemi's character.
I mean,
It was an old man.
his character's basically the same in a lot of his
It
movies.
is.
Outside of like Con Air. That one is
Have you seen the conspiracy theory about that?
no.
Between that, Billy Madison, and what's the other movie?
It's Con Air, Billy Madison, and Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
That's that.
I have
So
not heard, no.
so Billy Madison is first, and then because they made fun of him the whole time, he's making that list of people that he's going to kill.
Yeah.
And then he turns into Garland Green from Con Air.
Nice.
And then at the end, the plane wrecks and he goes off.
Yeah.
Well, then he reinvents himself
Yeah,
as
Big
I
Lebowski.
can't remember his character's name.
Donnie.
Donnie and Big Lebowski,
No
and that's why he has
way.
his moments of rage and snapping and. Yeah.
No way.
I mean, I don't know, but it kind of makes sense.
I like it.
Little Mandela effect, maybe.
I
You're
like
out of your element, Donnie.
It all adds up. So you got the PowerPoint ready. Let's get off my rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I'm gonna-
Today's January 28th. It's also my mom's birthday, so happy birthday,
Hey,
Mom.
happy birthday,
birthday.
Mom.
We are good to go.
I'll get to the right one.
And here we go.
I am firing on some cylinders today. Keep that in
Good.
mind.
Good. Here we go.
They've all got the same. I need to go through and change the titles. That's what it is. I need to rename them. I'll get there.
It's fine. We're fine.
It might be Tuesday before I get there, but I will get there.
Good.
All right. Today in history, January 28th, the 28th day of the year.
Mm.
Whoa.
That's how
For
that
those that
works.
are counting.
Maths are hard. I get it. So, starting with events on the Wayback Machine. Let's make sure that we line up before I just go talking off the hip there. 1547, Edward the Sixth, the 9-year-old son of Henry VIII, math, becomes king. Like how you guys did that. You should make that a thing. Became king of England on his father's death.
Which is crazy that there's a country in the world that allows a 9-year-old to rule it, regardless of lineage, regardless of chosen by God, regardless of whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true.
What?
He was the only male heir to Henry VIII who had 2 daughters,
Hmm.
Think so?
Mary
Yeah.
and Catherine,
Yeah.
and Elizabeth. No, Mary and Elizabeth. Catherine was 2 of his wives, 3 of his wives. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
we need to wait into Henry VIII
Yeah.
sometime. I mean, we've got enough events that he's done that'll pop up throughout the year.
Sure.
And if you want to get a kind of a brief overview, a little bit of creative liberty taken, watch The Tudors. If you haven't watched, it's a good series.
It actually is a good series.
It is. And it's the events that happen are factual. The dialogue, of course, creative liberties.
Yeah.
But Henry Cavill's in it. Superman. Hey, there's a good.
Whoa.
Bring it back.
He's from the island of Jersey,
Did not know that.
which is off of Africa, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But it was a British colony.
Was it Jersey or Old Jersey?
It's not New Jersey.
Can't be.
It's just Jersey.
It's Jersey.
The Isle of Jersey.
Hmm.
I say it's off of. It could be off Spain. It could be off.
Could be somewhere else. Jersey.
It's somewhere in the Atlantic.
It's somewhere not here.
Not only are maths hard, maps are hard too.
Maps are easy.
So on to the next one. I gotta get back to my notes. Let's see. 1938, the world land speed record on a public road is broken by Rudolph. I'm gonna butcher this. Caraccola. Caracciola.
I think you're close enough.
Yep.
I can't do better.
Caracola. That's what we're gonna
That's
call
what I
it.
would have gone with.
I typed this and I
Kiola?
don't know that I
Okay.
could spell it.
Rudy. We're gonna call him. We're whole
Good
Rudolph.
job, Rudy.
Yeah.
Yeah, way to go, Rudy.
Rudy
And the,
C.
and the Mercedes, right? Rudy C, not Rudy A or B. And the Mercedes-Benz W125 record wagon. R. Letters are hard. EKORDWAGEN.
It's pronounced like it's spelled. The record wagon.
The record
Yeah,
wagon.
it's Wagen.
Wagen. That's
Wagen.
correct, sir. At a speed of 432.7 kilometers. It's kilometers for those of you that are Americans. Per hour, which roughly equates to 268.9 miles per hour.
Which isn't that fast on like a salt flat or
Right.
like a
No.
drag strip or someplace that's meant
Or the Autobahn.
Yeah.
to go fast. This was just a road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A road
Ah.
that could have had rodents and deer and God knows what jumping out in front of
Have
him.
you
and-
seen Street Outlaws?
Right.
That's what pops into my head as they're going down some side street in Oklahoma City. In the wreck of the wagon, 268.9 miles per hour.
That's nuts.
That is.
It's moving.
Moving.
Yeah.
I've seen clips or reels on Facebook and I think some YouTube shorts as well, to where you see a guy on the Autobahn doing like 300 kilometers an hour, and some exotic car just pulls right behind him, flashing its lights to get him to move over. Scary.
Yeah.
Nope.
Scary.
Nope.
Scary. So on to the next 1956. Excuse me.
Kazoon type.
Elvis Presley makes his first national television appearance.
So he was already a big deal on the radio and
Yes.
stuff like that before then, and then television kind of caught up, right?
Right.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't. I mean, I guess the Beatles were kind of the same way. When people had
Yeah.
bought their records and whatnot.
Their
but it-
records and the radio made them famous, and then
Right.
television gave them a face.
Exactly.
Fair.
Same thing. So, and he wasn't very old. He was in his
No.
early 20s, I think. Maybe.
Nice.
I don't think he was a teenager.
I don't know.
No. Have you guys
1958.
seen the new Elvis movie?
I have.
Is it pretty solid?
It's good.
I need to watch it.
I'm not a big Elvis fan. I respect him. I get what he did for
Sure.
popular music.
Yeah.
I get the barriers that he broke down with his lewdness.
Yeah.
You know, he's shaking his hips
I was
on
gonna say,
stage,
it's
driving girls
shaking
wild.
hips.
Right. Goes
Shaking
along full of money.
hips.
Exactly. So I get what he did for breaking down social, stigmas and barriers and all that thing. But
Right.
I'm not a big Elvis fan.
You know, I'm in that same exact boat for like Michael Jackson.
Sure.
The dude did amazing stuff for pop culture and
Sure.
for he could sing, dude could dance. He did some very other questionable things that I can't go. I'm a huge Michael Jackson fan because
Sure.
of everything he did. It's pretty break even.
Well,
He
and
did some really bad,
Yeah.
lewd things,
Well, and for everything that
but dude could dance.
Right,
Holy
right.
cow.
He had
right.
some great songs.
Yeah. Same.
I mean-
Thriller's still a great.
Oh yeah.
So I've heard Smooth Criminal, the Alien Ant Farm version, probably 100 times over the last year because my son likes that song. So
Sure.
be it. And he just every once in a while I hear it in his earbuds, whatever. Coming back home yesterday from his basketball tournament, we heard the Michael Jackson version come out in '89. And I'm listening to it. And it's like, God, there's nothing about, because his woos and his whoops and his, whatever that he does. So he's. None of that would pass his music now.
No, but everybody else that ever does it is imitating him.
Right.
Everybody that throws that little hee hee
Right.
or whatever those little quips were that he put into
Quips,
his
that's a
music,
good word. Yeah.
Yeah.
it was him.
His idiosyncrasies.
Yeah. And everybody
Everyone,
else
that's
that,
right.
that does any kind of like background vocal
Right.
interjection,
Sure.
was all inspired by him.
Sure.
Background singing,
He's
I would even say, kind of was
the
like
king
a
of
thing.
pop.
Yeah, he did it.
Yeah.
He also hung a kid out a window by his
Blanket.
Yeah.
Blanket was what
Yeah.
they were calling the kid.
Yeah, I think
Was
so.
it that Prince Michael II or whatever?
Kind of before my time.
It's
Not gonna lie.
Yeah, he was an odd one.
he was.
Well, he'd never had a childhood.
Yeah.
His dad stole that from him. And so that's what they said, that he had some mental block there, that he was just a big child.
Yeah.
But when it came to his craft, there was nobody better.
No.
You know, from the production side to the development, the design, everything leading up to the actual performance. And then he hit another level when he became a performer.
Right.
So, and that was not necessarily the same with Elvis, but he was a perfectionist, and he was very much, the building's going to fall down over there or something.
Money well spent.
Right. It's not our money. Well, kind of is tax money. Anyway. But yeah. So you mentioned the Elvis movie.
Yeah.
Austin Butler plays Elvis in the movie. I just watched the first 2 episodes last night of Masters of the Air, which is the third in the trilogy with Band of Brothers, The Pacific, and now Masters of the Air. Austin Butler stars in it.
Nice.
Little Elvis-ish, which makes me wonder if that's just who he is.
They
Right.
said that he's transformed so much. He's got that accent all the time now.
He sounded like Elvis, and they asked his character where he's from, and he's like, Casper, Wyoming. I'm like, that
No.
might work because it's kind of a Western.
No, I think he
it
did a
doesn't
whole
work.
Heath Ledger deep dive into characters.
Sure,
there.
and it may be, but you know what? He pulls it off, and he does it beautifully.
Yeah.
And it's only been 2 episodes. The next one comes up Friday, and I can't wait. But it's Playtone Productions. It's Tom Hanks and it's Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, it's
Spielberg.
not going to be bad.
Yeah,
It can't.
it's fantastic. So
Nice.
if you've got Apple Plus, watch it. It's worth every bit of it. So on to next. 1958, the Lego company, or the patent for the Lego was filed.
Yes.
I'm just briefly reading off here, trying to find. I think Lego company patents the design of its Lego bricks, still compatible with bricks produced today. So the patent stayed true. 6 bricks of 2x4 studs can be combined in 915,103,765 ways.
Yes.
I can read math.
You're
I just
welcome.
can't do them in my head.
Shaboom.
And what's crazy is that last one, their tolerances are 10 micrometers, not micrometers, micrometers.
Micrometer to us Americans.
Yeah. But that is 1 micrometer is a millionth of a meter, which is hard for colonials, but
Yeah.
it's really, really, really small.
So when you say they have tolerances, what does that mean?
Meaning the bricks touch within their level, they're perfect within 10 millionths
Holy
of
hell.
a meter.
That's precise.
Yeah, so if there's 100 centimeters in a meter
Right.
and there's 10 millimeters in a centimeter, that means that 1 millimeter, I'm putting you to sleep right now. That means there's 1 millimeter is
I asked.
1,000.
I'm sorry, Ryan. It's early. I know.
1 millimeter is 1,000th of a meter.
Yeah.
A micrometer is 1,000th of a millimeter.
Yeah.
Which is,
It's small. We get it.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
why Legos,
Right.
they're perfect.
They're precise.
Absolutely.
Unless the dog gets a hold of it, let's be honest. It's not going to be as precise.
But that's why they hurt so bad, I think,
Oh,
when you
yeah.
step on them.
because they're precise.
Because they're
They're
precise. They're
precise.
sharp.
Makes
They're
sense.
perfect.
See, it drives me crazy. I haven't gotten little man into Legos yet.
Yeah.
He just,
I tried with
Same.
Reed. I tried.
and I love them.
Right. Same. I was
Still, I would.
jacked, and then I get to
to.
play with Legos with my
Yeah.
son. Like, we get all these big sets. We can put them together. We can
We're
have
gonna
fun.
build the Millennium Falcon. Come on, let's
Right.
go.
I'll build a Death Star. You build a
Come
Millennium
on.
Falcon. Guess what? Couldn't care less.
No, same here.
He has so many Legos in his bedroom.
I'm sorry to tell both of you guys. My son, who is 1, cannot walk by the dirt bike without getting it on and started and revving it. And he just goes nuts for my passion, which is awesome.
He gets on it, starts it, revs it at 1. That is
I
awesome.
put him on it and he grabs on the handlebars and he
right.
actually revs it. Like he's actually
Nice.
doing it.
Okay, that is impressive.
Yeah, he's actually
I was
like,
gonna say if he can reach the
Right, no.
kickstart at this age,
no.
you're gonna have a giant on
This
your
summer
hands.
he'll be taking off. Don't worry about it.
Right. No, and he's
Can you imagine a 1.5-year-old with the helmet just giggling away?
That is a baby on a motorcycle.
Right. No, there's his helmet. Hey. Too bad
Nobody
it
can
doesn't
see it.
fit. Well, no, they can. It's just too bad it doesn't fit one of us.
Yeah, no.
Well,
I
it
mean,
might fight my little
Yeah.
peanut head.
but it fits him like a 5-gallon bucket. But that's not.
It probably fit me like a 5-gallon bucket, let's be honest.
Oh.
All right, moving on to the next one. 1985 supergroup USA for Africa, which if you don't know who all was involved in that,
It's okay.
pick a person. They were
Yeah.
involved in that. 1985, anybody who was anybody. Lionel Richie, Bruce Springsteen, Hall & Oates, Michael Jackson was in it. Diana Ross.
Yeah.
I think Tom Petty was even involved in that.
Yeah, again, it's whoever was a singer back then. It was big.
Yeah.
They were part of it.
Bono was a part. Yeah, you name them, they were involved in it. But they USA for Africa was the name of the group. United Support of Artists for Africa recorded the hit single "We Are the World." If you don't know that, where have you been?
Right.
So
You're
good.
Yeah.
clearly too young to be. No, wait, I would not say you're too young to be listening to the show. No, because we want you to listen and learn. But yeah, they help raise funds for the Ethiopian famine relief.
Well, and that was
This
that
was 85.
mid 80s. That was that time when
Yeah.
everybody was focused on
We
just
are
how
the
bad things are
world.
in Africa and their living and stuff. And now
We are the children.
But then-
I don't know that they are way better, but they
They did their
doesn't feel
part.
focused as much.
They did their part.
Didn't they remake this too? Like maybe 10 years ago?
Something like that, yeah.
And it
I heard
was-
there's something about it that they re-recorded the song with newer pop or with
Yeah.
today's or at the time.
Because I know there's a
today's-
section of it that's like people rapping.
yeah, that would not have been. I mean, it could have been 1985. But
No,
that
this was
wasn't.
new because I know it was.
That would have been Run
like-
DMC and KRS-One and
No, this was like
Sugar
Lil
Hill Gang.
Wayne and
you. Oh yeah, no, that's.
I don't know if it was 10 years ago or
I almost went Hulk
in that
Hogan over
range.
there. Oh yeah, brother.
I mean, I feel like it was like an 05, maybe a 2015. I would think it would be a
Yeah,
anniversary
I remember
thing.
hearing something about that now that you mention it. Yeah, it was. I think 2015 sounds right because I think it was the 30-20 year anniversary.
Math again.
God damn it! Why are you throwing maths at me so early? You know that me and math and words and letters and distances and things don't mesh well at 9:12 in the morning. God, we are just cramming nothing into this show, are we? All right, moving on to the next one. And last but definitely not least with the events, 1986 Space Shuttle Program STS-51L mission Space Shuttle Challenger disintegrates shortly after liftoff, killing all 7 astronauts on board. One of the astronauts happened to be a teacher who was going to teach science lessons from space to be the first to broadcast down to students. They were live cast it because I know we were set up to receive those casts when I was in 2nd grade when this happened because I'm
Dang.
old. Hey, you watch it. You will go to your room. But yeah, tragically, there was a fault in the O-rings on the booster rockets, and that caused the rapid acceleration of heat, and it caused an explosion. So there's a few documentaries that are out. I believe the one, and don't quote me on this, it's either on Netflix or it is on Amazon Prime, but I believe it's on Netflix. And they do a lot of research into, they interview the design engineers, they interview the family, and they talk about how they let them know that it's because of the weather, because of the colder temperatures, that there's a flaw in the O-ring on the booster rockets. They warned them and they warned them and they warned them. And the lead engineers told them, hey, it's within, understandable specs, whatever.
Yeah,
What's
within
the-
tolerance.
Thank you. You're the guy.
Yep.
And they went ahead and the lead engineer, not the lead, but the engineer that was telling them that the problem was there, he couldn't even be at the launch because he knew something was going to happen.
Oh gosh.
So yeah, it's an amazing documentary. And the worst part of that whole tragedy is that they are fairly confident that where the explosion happened, where the shuttle was, based on the distance from the explosion, that all 7 people aboard were alive the entire time that they plummeted to the earth.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh,
So they knew
it was.
that was it.
Yeah.
It's catastrophic.
Jeez.
So yeah,
Terrible.
it's, I want to say it's a 3-parter. Maybe it's a full hour and a half.
Yeah.
One.
You remember what it was called?
I don't. I can look it up and I can throw it on our Facebook group. I can throw a link to it so people can see it. But it's fantastic. You know, Delaney and I watched it last year sometime, and it's just jaw-dropping through the entire thing. So let's go to a happy note. Happy birthday.
Let's shift gears to happy birthdays.
And on that note, 1912, Jackson Pollock, American painter.
That's a Pollock.
That's a Pollock.
Right there.
My favorite line from Guardians of the Galaxy. Don't take a black light down there that look like a Jackson Pollock painting. Love that. I could not have found a better actor to play Star-Lord.
Nope.
So Jackson Pollock was an abstract artist, to say the least.
Yeah.
Splatter painting is what we call it as kids. Yeah. I had a skateboard that I painted when I was a kid, and I splatter painted it. So I didn't realize I was making a Jackson Pollock skateboard. So
nice.
Moving on, 1936, American actor, director, writer, Hawkeye himself, Alan Alda. If you are not privy to MASH, maybe you know him as the father from Father of the Bride.
Yeah.
He was in a ton of other things.
I put just a couple of my favorites on there.
Which are?
MASH.
Yep.
Blacklist that ran from 2013 to 2023.
Oh, I forgot he was on that, yeah.
And the movie with Ben Stiller, Tower Heist. He played a bad guy.
I saw that. Really?
Yeah, I won't ruin it for you then, but he played a not good guy.
So what a bad guy. He just wasn't a good guy.
Yeah.
I gotta watch that now. I didn't know.
Tower Heist. It's a fantastic movie. Fantastic.
Nice. All right, moving on. 1959, the world was given American director and producer Frank Darabont.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm working on
Darabont.
saliva over
You
here.
okay?
Yeah. I don't know. It's been a morning.
Falling apart.
Let's see. Directed and produced. Let's see. The Green Mile. The Majestic, one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen it.
It is good. That's one with Jim Carrey?
Yes. And it's a serious role.
Yeah.
Not a lot of comedy. I mean, there's some funny parts to it, but not a lot of comedy to it. There's some substance to his character. It's fantastic. Let's see. The Mist. Didn't see it. And then he directed quite a few episodes of The Walking Dead.
He did in the first season or so.
Yes,
and then AMC wanted to cut the budget, and he's like, I'm out.
I think he did the first season and a half.
Yeah.
Maybe the first 2 seasons full.
Yeah.
Because the first season was only 6 episodes.
Right.
And we will get back to The Walking Dead.
Good.
But yeah, Frank Darabont directed most of all of season 1 and most of the episodes of season 2. So.
But you can kind of feel it. If you've watched The Walking Dead, you can feel that director change.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It wasn't something that I was like, oh, wait, it was something different. But knowing that he did the first season and a half or so.
Ish.
And then season 2 and season 3. And for those that have seen it or haven't, you should. But every season kind of had like a idea around it. Like there was a season they were in a prison, then they were in the town, they were on the farm, they were
there was a different vision or a different aura to it.
Right. And you can kind of tell like something. I see it.
Right.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Yeah. The in memoriam segment. Let's go in the Wayback Machine. 814. That would be 814 CE, 814 Common Era.
Mm-hmm.
You're learning. Holy Roman Emperor, born in the year 742, Charlemagne.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the ones that I kind of wanted to go over for this episode. Charlemagne was an interesting character.
Sure.
Interesting study. So moving on to 1547, we alluded to it earlier. King of England, and the reason that we have the Church of England.
Yeah.
That would be Henry VIII. The reason we have the Church of England, or had, do we still have? We had, regardless.
Yeah.
The Pope at the time would not grant a divorce to Henry VIII for his, I don't know, first wife, second wife, whatever.
First of 6.
Jeez.
And so he broke away from the Catholic Church.
Yep.
Created the Church of England.
Yep. And he was married 6 times.
Yes.
Became king at 17 years old.
Another one we need to go down sometime.
Yeah.
He was an interesting fella.
Yeah.
Giant ego.
Yep.
Yes.
That's not a euphemism.
Nope.
Giant ego.
Straight
that
up.
dude had trouble
big
walking through doors because his head was so big. So moving on. Fast forward a little bit. Again, we alluded to it earlier. 1986, Space Shuttle Challenger crew, and I want to mention their names because it is
they're on here.
It is only respectful and appropriate that we do. But we have American captain, engineer, and astronaut Gregory Jarvis. We have American educator and astronaut Krista McAfee. Macaleef. I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't mean that disrespectfully. I'm not trying to be funny. It's just a weird spelling name. It's not a Smith or a Thomas,
Oh.
you know, or a Fluker.
Can't all be Thomas.
People mess that one up all the time.
Right. It's not an O'Neill.
Right.
So, but yeah, she was supposed to go in and do a series of lessons from space, science lessons.
Would have been amazing.
Yes. Let's see. Physicist and astronaut Ronald McNair. Then we have engineer and astronaut Ellison Onizuka.
Good job.
That dude's an interesting character there. Here, I don't know if it fell off of me or it was poking me. So, Ellison Onizuka. And then you have the colonel, engineer, and astronaut Judith Resnick. That was also a uniqueness that they had 2 women on the same flight crew for a space shuttle. That was the first time that was going to happen. So there's that. Then you have Colonel Dick Scobie. He was a pilot and obviously an astronaut. And then you have Captain Michael J. Smith, who was also another pilot.
Good job with the last name.
Yeah.
Proud of you.
I've been practicing that one.
Yeah.
That one was going to throw me up for a loop. It was.
Yes.
I didn't want to say for a loop. I'm sorry. Anyway. Let's see. Where are we on that one? And lastly, 1996. It just happened to fall in order this time. We have American author, illustrator, co-creator of Superman, the father of the modern comic himself.
Yep.
Jerry Seigel.
Yep.
So there we go. That is today. Where did my arrow go? There it is. Today in history. So there we go. Is that a today in history?
Yes.
We stumbled through that one like we have everything else this show. I blame nobody but myself.
That's okay.
No,
It's okay.
It's all good. But you've been waiting for this one. I think this has been the one you're excited
I'm a little
about.
excited. Giant nerd guy.
I wanted to do Charlemagne, but really I want to talk about comic books.
Well, so as I go down the list and I put them on there, that is literally the order that I saw everything. I'm like, ooh, Charlemagne would be good. Ooh, Henry VIII would be good. Jerry Seigel. Oh my God. So yeah, it's we should just really just roll into it. What do you say?
Let's roll into
Do it.
Jerry Seigel.
Yep.
Father of the modern comic. Visionary. Interesting story. If I get the words out. Interesting story.
You better get the words out. You're the one doing all the talking.
Not
from
all
here
of
on
it.
out.
You have a segment? You have a segment? I have a lot.
Yes.
Yes.
I can't call mine a segment. So yeah.
Jerry Seigel.
Jerry Seigel. Fire away.
Seigel?
I say
Se-
Seigel.
I mean, it was a name that his parents made up when they immigrated.
Right.
So
You related to Jason.
No, spelled differently.
And
Never mind. Trying
and
to make
I
that
said,
connection.
They immigrated in 1900? No.
Ish.
Yeah. Ish. His parents immigrated in 1900 into New York. He was born in Cleveland, Ohio. Probably not. The chances are slim that there's a relation, but maybe.
I'm hoping.
Maybe.
You want to effort that one, see if there's a connection?
I can look through.
Well, now that we have Ryan busy for the next 5 minutes.
I know.
I'm going into a deep plunge on this one.
But no, so Jerry was born into a Jewish family. They were born in Lithuania and fled to New York in 1900.
Yep.
Just for the anti-Semitism that was rampant in that part of the world at that time. And his parents were, good, hardworking, salty. They were the kind of guys. His father was a tailor, owned a clothing store, but June 2nd, 1932, his father was assaulted in his store by a shoplifter, suffered a fatal heart attack. And then 9 years later, his mom died of the exact same thing, heart attack, 1941. But he went on from there. He joined the Army for a little while. He was actually trained. I can love this one, an airplane engine mechanic.
Hey, there you
all
go.
things. So we're basically the same person, which is kind of cool. You know.
Are you?
Yeah.
No. As much as I can say that because I spell my name the same as Shaq, we're cousins.
Right.
We're not.
You're not.
No. But yeah, he was trained in the Army as a airplane engine mechanic, a film editor, a motion picture cutter, public relations man, and a reporter. Posted in Honolulu, where he was assigned a writing job at the military newspaper Stars and Stripes, which is still the newspaper for the military. Stars and Stripes is still the military
Publication.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. And was discharged in 1946 as a rank of technician, 4th grade. And me being the Air Force guy that I am, I have no idea what rank that is. No clue.
Well done.
None. No clue whatsoever.
I'm going to guess that's somewhere around, again, guessing.
Yeah.
E6.
That'd be fast, but
E5.
maybe. Yeah. So he starts working for DC Comics, and he's doing some work with DC. Comes up with this idea of Superman, which is going to be this, at first, not really a hero, but would it be an anti-hero or just a bad guy?
Originally, he was a villain.
Yeah.
And not only that, hear me out. And I don't know how far into your studies will got into that, but he actually came out. So he met Joe Schuster when they were in high school together before he went into the Army.
16 years old.
Yes, 16 years old. And they actually came up with the idea for a superhero, which would be the villain, actually, when they were in high school, still in high school together. Conceptualized it, wanted to. Superman was bald originally.
Yeah.
That's
which is already villainous.
Yes.
Good guys aren't bald.
Right.
Not in comic books.
I'm getting there.
Well,
I'm almost a villain.
Fact shows.
I know.
Yeah.
It's my sunroof. Anyway. But yeah, originally, and it was before DC Comics was actually Action Comics before it became DC later on down the road.
Yeah.
But yeah, they weren't really sure what to do with it. And they just kept, efforting, networking, and then then they came up with the idea of Superman himself. So, continue.
Yeah. So they were developing this character since 1933, hoping that they could, make something of it, which is commendable, especially in those times, because that's Great Depression era.
Sure.
And what are we going to do? And they want to sell it as a newspaper comic strip, which is kind of one of those cool if you can make it kind of things. Nowadays it's hard. It's even hard nowadays to get into comic strips in a newspaper because there's the ones.
Right. Well, keep in mind that was a revolutionary concept at the time.
Sure.
Because in 1936, which shortly before Superman hit Action Comics #1, there was the Phantom.
Yeah.
And that was the only newspaper comic strip superhero, but he didn't have any superpowers. He didn't have any special real gadgets or anything. He was just a masked detective, basically.
Right.
So,
dare I say, Batman.
A lot closer to Batman.
Right.
And Batman is strongly based off of the Phantom.
Okay.
But he was a newspaper comic strip, like you were saying, and it was not very popular.
Okay.
At that point, but there was enough of a push for it to where they made it a national publication.
Cool.
So.
Full disclaimer going forward, and I should have said this sooner, but I did not grow up in the comic book era.
Oh, I did.
I did not. Not at all.
I did.
The kids don't read comic books. The only thing I have is in my entire house is one Spider-Man helmet. This is it. This is the extent of my comic book. I told you
paraphernalia.
I told you before the show.
Yeah.
I'm not even into the Avenger movies as much as
No,
I
you
probably should be nowadays.
Wasn't that during the Dark Show?
Right.
We talked about
I
it.
said people are gonna get
So-
mad. We're doing Superman. You went Marvel instead of DC.
See,
Right.
I don't even know that I crossed the line.
Oh,
Across so many
Oh,
lines.
you crossed swords, man.
I get it.
You
I
think Joe Schuster's right? You crossed the streams. You have disrupted the space-time continuum.
But there's my problem with it is I don't have it ingrained. I don't have the last 40 years of my very long, tired life
Sure.
dedicated to comic books.
Sure.
Yeah.
You want to talk about internal combustion engines, you want to talk about trains, bring it on. I know things about trains that people probably shouldn't know. Like they can go the same speed forward and backward. That's why you see locomotives the way they do, because it doesn't matter.
Sorry.
Shut up. I heard you snoring. But you know what I'm saying? Like there's a comic book.
Like you're not going to be doing this during my presentation. I get it.
Well, yeah, but that's fine. Fine. Go. No,
No, you're fine.
there's
I'm
things
sorry.
that I'm going to learn today
No,
from
absolutely.
you right now, and it's
Right.
not a fake enthusiasm. It's me learning for the first time.
Right. No, and I get it. And I did.
Yeah, no, and it's because we all have jobs and we all have lives outside of this.
Sure.
And we haven't had a chance to really discuss
There's-
everything that you know versus everything that everybody else knows, and the little itty bitty bit that Ron knows.
Right. Well, I mean, we would have to have so many production meetings
Oh,
beforehand
yes.
over the 2-week period just to get you guys even on a
Generic knowledge.
generic plane. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, it's comic books are such a broad. So, I mean, it's when they say it's the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
And there's the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
And then there's the DC Universe and the DCEU and the DC, cinematic. There are so many different realms
Sure.
that it could be because there's so much content.
Yeah.
And it's all make believe, so nothing is wrong. And then you get the keyboard warriors, the internet nerds that are like, oh my god, that's not canon.
Yeah.
That's not really what happened in the DC universe. And it's
Yeah.
but she doesn't even use JavaScript. I mean, it's major nerddom. I get it. And I hopefully hide a lot of it well, my inner nerd. But
It's okay.
Let it shine.
said hopefully.
Fly.
Need to
Let it go.
peacock today.
that
Peacock today.
Fly.
Let it go.
So
Well, I know in my research for like kind of the origin story of Superman,
Sure.
which we can get to here in
we'll
a minute.
get into that.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
And I was telling Ron this before we started. It's you have Superman. Then there's the whole thing about Superboy,
Right.
which was early on, and then that origin story. And
Well,
then,
even Superboy, it was Kal-El or Clark
Yeah.
Kent, and then it changed, it pivoted when you get to new writers, new generations of comic book writers and designers, story writers and all that.
Mhm.
That it became a secondary character.
Yeah.
And it ran congruent with Clark Kent.
Yeah.
Kal-El. It's so there are so many different ways that it goes that there's nothing really wrong. It just believes on to which universe you want to subscribe to.
Yeah.
So, and we'll get to the origin story and
No,
all
I
that.
was just saying that.
Yeah,
That's,
no, but
that's
yeah.
where I get lost sometimes. I'm sure you can speak to that better. It's just depends on what Superman version you want
Sure.
to go with, and if you're that big of a fan, then I guess you can have it as a collective. But it's
Right.
just
Well, and then there's a whole story arc of Red Superman to where he didn't land in Kansas. He landed in the USSR,
yeah,
and he became a weapon of the Russian government or the communist government.
Huh.
There's a whole story arc of just evil Superman, and it's just whatever the brain can think of, it's probably already been done, and it's probably been done ad nauseum.
yeah.
And it's just
See, the only problem with that is then where's the future go?
new writers, new thoughts.
How does the Simpsons stay on the air for all this
How do
time?
they keep predicting the future?
I don't
too,
know.
right.
It's awesome.
Right. So, so what's the process of a comic book? What order does it go into, and then what jobs are involved in making comics? So you got the conceptualization and the planning, like we just talked about, to where you get new writers coming in and they're thinking up new shit and they're trying to put it together and they're trying to make sense of it, and they're trying to get their stuff pushed and published, because now, and again we'll get back into this, the writer's name absolutely adds credit or discredits whatever story arc they're going to take, because you get fans that follow writers and not comics.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
from there, then they go to script writing, and they literally sit down and they almost make a movie script about it, line everything out. They make basic storyboard.
Well, comic book is a movie on paper.
Exactly.
Let's be real.
Exactly.
It truly is.
They write it out as a script. I mean, they put footnotes in it. They put scene notes in it. They put backstories, narrators.
That's cool.
Everything. They just line it all out. That's what the writer's job is. That's Stanley. To give you an idea, to give you a name with a job. That's Stanley. He's a writer.
Yeah.
He's not an artist. He's a writer. They have very basic artistic talent, more than all of us put together.
Right.
But
it's specialized.
His job is to write the story.
Sure.
So from there, then it goes to storyboarding, like we just talked about. Then it goes to artwork, to where the artists actually draw it out. So they take the scripts, they take the storyboards, and then they put it to a greater detail, and they put it in an order to where it all makes sense.
Pencil drawing.
Right.
Yep.
In the older days, so when Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were getting going, Jack Kirby was a writer and an artist. So him and Stan Lee worked hand in hand a lot of the time.
Cool. Nice.
They would write the script, draw the storyboard out, then go back in and fill in all the dialogue. So the script was really a basic telling of the story, and it had more notes on the scene, on the location, on the events that are going to happen, and a vague where the dialogue is going. Artists would go through and draw all the storyboards, and then they would go back through with the writer and the artist together, and they would put all the minutia, all the dialogue in there to where it became a full comic book story.
Nice.
So, and then from there you get the lettering, you get the person that comes through and writes it all in. Penciler is in between the artist and I forgot that penciler is in between the artist and the writer. So they go through and they pencil it and they make the storyboards. And then the artist would come in and color it all in. And then you've got the lettering. They would go through and actually black everything in, put all the shadowing, the background, the all these things. And then it goes to editing from there. And then they chop and cut and put it all together and make the final product. So it's a very involved process to get a comic book. It's not just Stan Lee grabbing it and drawing everything out,
doodling
all
some
the
pictures, right?
Right. He's the conceptualization of it,
right?
And then Jack Kirby is the embodiment of it. He pulls it and makes it an actual comic book. So,
gotcha.
And then it goes to print and production, and then marketing, promotion, and then it becomes a whole juggernaut of let's get it out there.
Just to see in 5 or 6 months if it is actually a success.
Right. And keep in mind that these are monthly issues.
Right.
More often than not that they come out. It's not a weekly. It's not a, when you get into the bigger ones like your Walking Deads, they're graphic novels.
Yeah.
Difference between a comic and a graphic novel. Graphic novel is just a bunch of comics thrown in together to make a thicker book.
Okay.
Literally it.
Yeah.
The reason that it's thrown graphic on there, a lot of the content in those, because they can get into a deeper story. You get a lot more what they call realistic violence. So in your comic books, you're going to get the pow bubbles and the kabam. Exactly. We're on the same page there.
Yeah.
But we'll take The Walking Dead, for instance. Have you guys watched the series?
Yes.
So you know who the governor is?
Yeah.
Okay. The way he, I don't want to say perishes, but the way that he sort of kind of meets his demise, gets his eyes stabbed out, gets his male member nailed to the floor.
No.
Yeah.
It's brutal. When what you saw with Glenn getting his eye bashed out on screen paled in comparison to what they showed Negan doing to him in the graphic novel.
Really?
It really emphasized the word graphic.
Okay.
So, what are your jobs that are involved? What are your different positions? You've got the writer, like we talked about. Their responsibility is developing the story, writes the script, provide narrative direction for the artist. Task conceptualization, script writing, and coordination with the artist. So they are really hands-on with the artist. Next, you've got, wait for it, the artist.
Sure.
So artist responsibilities: illustrate the characters and scenes based on the script, just like we talked about. Task: character design, page layout, penciling, inking, coloring, and those. The further we get into modern comics, those actually break out into different people instead of just the artists themselves. Next, you get the letterer. Their responsibilities: add lettering, speech balloons, captions to the artwork. They are very integral in producing the dialogue part of the story.
Sure.
Yes.
Makes sense.
It's just iconic of having the, like you said, the word balloons of
Right.
comic books. Like
And
that's
the big part of that is they pick the placement of the word balloons.
Yeah.
That's even a big part of the comic.
Huh.
Based on where you are in the scene, based on where you're at in the part of the story. For a long time, that's where the word balloons were. The word balloons could tell you where you were at in the story. So
And if they overlap or do whatever, it's the back and forth. Of
yes. And that's really how they got the emotion behind the story, like you said, was the
Sure.
back and forth.
It's a logical thing to us to say, oh, well, the top is the first one, then the next one, then the one below it.
Right.
Even if it's in the same balloon,
Yeah.
there was
But-
something in between there.
Put yourself in 1940s America.
Right.
You'd never seen anything like that before.
true.
So blowing your mind on like, oh my God, are they talking at the same time? Is it, are they even in the blah, 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 blah.
Right. The questions you'd wrestle with, but you'd never actually.
Like you said to us, it's commonplace. It's common sense. We know.
Right.
Yeah.
So next you have, that was the letterer. Next you've got the editor. The editor's responsibilities provides feedback on the script, ensures consistency so they can go back and send it for rewrites, things like that. And then they edit for coherence to make sure everything makes sense. So their task, reviewing scripts and artwork, suggesting revisions, and overseeing the overall product. So people like Stan Lee would be a writer and an editor because it was his product and he wanted to make sure that everything made sense and that everything when they put through matched what his initial vision
Right.
was.
It's still got to be
Yeah.
his work.
Right. Him and Jack Kirby, and we'll get to that dynamic duo, made so many of the characters that we just know as mainstays, as staples in the comic industry with Marvel.
Yeah.
And how hand in hand they work compared to how things are done now, completely different process.
I bet there's a computer involved now.
It's
At
like,
least one.
yeah, I mean, there's some kind of a AI layout
Right.
to where it puts it all in order.
At least for my generation,
Yeah.
if I think of comic books, like the first one that comes to my mind is Spider-Man. I
Right.
feel like that's like the big one.
Spider-Man,
That's the big
Spider-Man.
one,
Right.
especially for Stan Lee. So.
Right. Stan Lee was his baby was Spider-Man, Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Right.
He created so many things, but in his contract, and this will make sense when we get in. Let me explain this out. In his contract, he said that Peter Parker has to be a white male and cannot be gay.
Right.
Keep in mind, this is 60s, 70s when this went on. And then you get into cancel culture and they're like, well, he's homophobic, he's racist, he's this. And in interviews, he'll explain, he said, no, I have nothing against, Stan Lee created the first outwardly homosexual comic book character. He was very progressive in having African-American, Asian, indigenous population, all these characters. And he said Peter Parker was written as Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Spider-Man has to be Peter Parker. That's who he was.
Sure.
If you change him, if you make him gay, if you make him African-American, if you make him Asian, then that's not Peter Parker.
Right.
That's
You're
not
creating
Spider-
a fictional person. He can be whoever I want him to be.
Right. Forced conceptualization changes the character.
Right.
True.
So-
Makes sense.
In his contract, and it was only for Peter Parker and Spider-Man because that was his baby. And what's Stan Lee's biggest footnote, aside from all the characters that he made, he took a one-dimensional product and made it 2D. He gave them faults. He gave his
Yeah,
characters.
he had problems.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He gave them human issues.
Right.
So Peter Parker was a high school student.
Yes.
Peter Parker had problem with girls. I mean, he originally went after Gwen Stacy and then ended up being Mary Jane.
Yeah.
So he had issues. He had problems. He had trials and tribulations. He went through embarrassment in high school. He went through
I think everybody did a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
the beginning parts of Peter Parker. He was going through puberty. He was going through the voice cracks. He was going through, all these problems that we all face. So people
He
could
was relatable.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
People could
So
relate
was.
to
He
his
was
characters
relatable.
because he took a one-dimensional product and made it 2D.
You could feel it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
But that's the thing. Like, he also got his powers and then realized that with great
Power.
Well, with great power comes great responsibility. Yep. A line that will go down in infamy. It's
Oh, yes.
And it could not be more true.
Right. But he learned it after he got his power once Uncle Ben died. And then he went out and his entire ethos after that was, I'm going to do good.
Yeah.
I've got these powers. I'm going to use it the way I want to use it.
He never understood it because his uncle would tell him, Uncle Ben would tell him that all the time. He never understood it. And then he gets the powers. He gets, Uncle Ben passes away. And depending on which story arc you follow as to how he passes away.
Right.
Again, there's a vast cornucopia of ways that these comics could play out. But then it all starts to make sense.
Yeah.
And that's part of the maturation of Peter Parker. So
exactly,
again,
which is cool.
Again, Stan Lee was integral in making these characters relatable. They weren't these gods.
Yeah.
They were humans.
Right.
They were us.
Yeah.
So
you could feel it. He wasn't the Superman from another planet that can fly.
Who's not relatable at all.
Who right.
To a degree.
Clark Kent was bumbling.
Yeah.
Clark Kent, but that was an act.
Right.
Yeah.
Peter Parker was genuinely
awkward teen.
Nerd.
Maturing, learning, all these things. So a few more jobs and then we'll get into some more of the fun stuff.
We're going to keep doing this the whole time.
And
I
I'm
guarantee it.
Great with that. And I apologize to your wife of how late you're going to be to church, but I'm going to nerd out. Sorry, Karen. I'm so sorry. So after the editor, then you got the colorist. His responsibilities are to add color to the black and white illustration. So to this point, all the way to the editor, everything's been in black and white.
Sure.
So now you've got the colorist. They add color to the black and white illustrations. They're enhancing the visual appeal. They do digital coloring now, but then they had shading and collaborating with the artist for a cohesive look.
So the one of the documentaries that you had encouraged me to watch.
Yep.
I got the sense that the colorist, the inkist, the people that put the color in that are arguably the most important. She just said apology accepted.
Yeah.
They were the bass player of any band.
Yes.
They were absolutely important.
Yep.
Name 5 famous bass players. If you're not in music, you can't.
Right. If that's not your jam.
Right.
No pun intended.
Right. But you know what I'm saying? Like
I didn't mean a pun. I was serious.
Punny. But you cannot have a good, well-rounded band without a bass player. You can't.
That's true.
You cannot get the same feeling, the same emotions, the same stuff out of a comic book or anything that's in black and white.
Right.
You can't.
Unless it's The Walking Dead. But that's one out of
that's fair.
Millions.
Right. But that's my point. Like the colors, those people are super important.
But that just proves your point. That's one.
One, right?
One.
How many comic?
Name another black and white comic. I can't even. Not newspaper print doesn't count.
Right. But that's true. There's no emotion. There's no feeling. There's no depth of no lighting, no light sources, no
lighting
shadows.
Sets the tone. Sets the mood.
All of it. Yeah.
So.
And it's crazy that they get almost no credit because you like comic books. You like comic stories. Name a colorist. Name one.
Exactly.
That's my point.
Exactly.
And it's not that they're not important. It's that the limelight is not on them ever.
Right.
Sucks. So they do it for a passion. They do it because they love it. Well, they're not going to get the notoriety out of it.
Artists.
Sure.
So it's like, you have to learn this job before you can do that job.
Got to be a dishwasher before you can be a cook, before you can be a chef.
Before you can be a sous chef, before you can be a chef, before you can be.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You could not be more spot on with that connection there.
Yay.
I found something.
I did it, guys.
Yeah, nerdgasm. So
not while I'm drinking. Come on.
That's fine. So after the colorist, then you got the inker. Inker. I want to make sure that I enunciate properly. The inker. Their I can't say responsibilities.
But you can say inker.
Their responsibilities. I got it.
No.
7th time's a charm. Enhances the pencil sketches with ink. And then they provide the depth and definition. They're inking they ink over pencil drawings and finalize the artwork. Nice. So they really cement it down.
Yeah.
So the colorist pretty much creates the mood. The inker finalizes the characters.
Sure.
If you want to put more of a relevant perception of it.
Okay.
Then from there, you've got the publisher. They manage the overall production process, including printing and distribution. They coordinate with the creative team, overseeing production, logistics, and marketing. And then you've got the graphic designer, which their responsibilities, they design the layout and overall aesthetic of the comic, including covers, promotional materials, things like that are added around the story into the book itself. Layout design, cover design, ensuring visual appealing presentation, yada, yada, yada. So if you notice that comic books are all the same size, there's a relative size to that. They are 6.625 inches by 10.25 inches.
Roughly.
Precisely.
Why
is it precisely? Because they maximize the amount of comics they can get out of one sheet of paper. And you're not a standard notebook size, but out of a standard printing size sheet of paper, they can get 2 pages of comics out of each sheet exactly.
Huh.
So
that's kind of cool.
Yes. So there's a reason behind everything with comic books, around behind the layout, behind the story cell placement, behind the bubble layout of the words, behind the lighting in each cell.
Yeah.
There is a specific purpose for everything. These nerds thought of everything.
That's awesome.
Because nerds thought of everything.
Everything has meaning to it.
Right.
So,
and that's got to be something that happens over time, only because somebody's going to write a strongly worded letter to a DC Comics and go, on page 14, the light moved from one side to the other for no reason.
Oh, I'm sure that they have an entire warehouse dedicated to those letters that they have never even opened.
Sure. But somebody read something to somebody, and it's just they've learned over the last 70 years how to make it perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect.
So Superman would be our first true superhero.
Right.
First true hero comic was The Phantom, created by Lee Falk, which we talked about earlier. It was a newspaper comic strip, debuted February 17, 1936. So that gives you an idea of just how close The Phantom was to Superman coming out. Superman #1 was Action Comics #1, actually. It was not Superman #1, but that would be June of 1938. So, original concept was he was designed as a bald villain we talked about. Superman was not able to fly. Superman did not have all these powers, which I'm sure Ryan will get to.
Yes.
Some of those. But rights were sold to Action Comics, which soon became DC Comics. And then it was redesigned for Action Comics #1, June 1938. And then from there, Ryan's got some Superman.
When the rights were sold, Spiegel and Schuster sold for $130.
$130 each.
Yeah. Yep. Which is the same now as $2,700.
Which is all they got. But
because they created Superman.
What they did get was a job.
Yes.
Which is why they took what they took.
Bingo.
And they did have final say on anything Superman related.
Right.
So
still, you create a powerhouse like Superman and your paycheck's $2,700.
Yep. And we'll get more into that, but there was no such thing as intellectual property back then.
Fair.
So
fair.
Very true. So yes, I was going to cover the little bit of the origin, kind of. I think we all kind of know the story a little bit of the start. Okay. All right.
Assume that we don't. And by we, I mean he.
Yes. So
I'm the problem.
Before I get started on it, kind of like what Justin, Ron, and I were talking about earlier with the comic books, and it's just you have origin stories and you have different ways that all these stories can go, which is, I guess, it's fun but frustrating sometimes when looking kind of stuff up, because it's
can be when you're not a comic book person who hasn't lived in that world, which I'm not even that person.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, my knowledge is vast, but it pales compared to some of these nerds that end up becoming.
Sure.
And I say nerd lovingly.
Right.
Don't get me wrong.
No, absolutely.
I mean, over the last 20 years, nerds become sexy.
Right. And nerd isn't a derogatory term.
No.
It's somebody that is a master in that field of intellect.
I mean, you could be, an engine nerd.
Right. Oh, well, yeah.
And that's, again, not a derogatory term. It's more of a description of your level of knowledge.
Right. Who
Sure.
knows
Yeah.
what they're talking about?
You know, what we could have called you an engine guru, but no, now you're an engine nerd.
Yeah, but nerds.
Yeah, and it's lovingly told.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I can geek out over it.
Yeah,
know?
Another term.
Yeah.
vast knowledge on it.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, what I guess was getting at with that is that, and you might be able to speak to this. That
Sure.
Like there's different ages of comics. So we have the Golden Age, the Silver
Yeah.
Age, and the Bronze Age. And with that, Superman's origin story changed a little bit, and most of the time, so I guess to start it, Jor-El and Laura.
Jarrell.
Is that how you say it? Jor-El. Jor-El.
Yeah, it's more French.
That's fancy.
Jor-El. Jor-El.
Yep.
And Laura are Superman's parents, which Krypton is about to explode, even with the warnings of Jor-El.
Yep.
He was trying to tell everybody, hey, I'm a scientist. I know stuff. Like,
Right.
it's gonna explode. We should get out of here. And they're like, no, we're good.
Depending on what backstory you look at.
True.
He was anywhere from king of the planet, president of the planet, lead scientist of the planet, yada, yada, yada. The original concept, the original story arc was he was just a scientist who had this information. And if I'm still in your thunder, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Krypton orbited around a red star.
Yep.
We're on a yellow star.
Yes.
So, and again, depending on which story arc you follow, as to why their red star was going to explode and why their planet was going to die and yada, yada, yada.
Yes,
Gotcha.
true. And so then we come to Kal-El, which for those of you who don't know, that is Superman.
Their last name's got to be L, right?
Just
Yeah,
I don't know how
think
that
so,
works.
yeah.
Jor-El and Laurel.
Jor-El, yeah.
and
Kal-El-E-L. Kal-El is his name if you haven't seen the movies or read the comics.
Or
But
been
then
living under a rock.
I, mean, I even knew that one. I even knew that one.
Hey, side note, Nicolas Cage has a son named Kal-El.
Really?
That's how big of a Superman fan he is.
Are you serious?
Why don't we get him on the
100%.
show?
Yeah.
Because that dude's probably busy being crazy. So,
But anyway, so they send him down in
that
the
dude's
capsule
a nerd.
Yeah.
Just
to
saying.
to Earth, and then as you spoke to, since we're under a yellow star, once he gets to Earth, he gets all of his little powers and everything.
And again, depending on which story arc you follow, he develops them over time
yeah,
because his body absorbs the yellowness of the
yellowness
sun.
of the
They
sun.
never really say what it is.
Yes.
And
You
I'm
don't
sure
have-
that
but
if
you
you
don't have to when you're making stuff up.
exactly,
It's
and I'm
true.
sure that if you did a deep dive into it, there is some story arc where they explain exactly what proton or what neutron
Exactly.
or what
Yeah.
solar flares.
Don't say
do.
gamma ray.
No, that's Hulk. That's plenty of others.
But again,
Yeah.
it just depends on which one you read,
Right.
or which one you believe. I don't say believe in, but which one you like.
Subscribe to.
Subscribe to. That's
Yeah,
a good way
yeah.
to put it. Some say that, like you said, he got his powers later on because of the yellowness of the sun or whatever particle.
Right.
Some say that he got it right when he was here, and it was kind of like a Hercules kind of thing, to where he's
Right.
an infant and he's lifting cars.
And you do have it, and it's not a Mandela effect. There are actual comics where they show baby Superman flying carrying a car
yeah.
and giggling like a baby will
See, and
while carrying a car.
that's where I guess the big discrepancies between the stories go is when
Sure.
he gets to Earth. And then, some stories have where the Kents, which is his family, why he becomes Clark Kent, but what they do when they find him. Like, there's one story which I thought was kind of crazy. They drop him off at an orphanage
Right.
and then adopt him years later once he's kind of
Huh.
older.
They just don't want the baby.
Yeah. When he, I think it's like maybe 10, 11, they're like, oh, yeah, no, we want you back.
Huh.
Yeah, most of them do subscribe to the fact that they just kept him
Yeah.
Yeah.
because he landed in a spacecraft.
That's what I was told.
And
believe,
that's considered
The story.
the most accurate.
And that's the one
Representation.
I subscribe to as well, because
Sure.
I like the thought, kind of like we were talking about Uncle Ben earlier, that Mr. Kent was kind of that.
Jonathan.
Jonathan was that version to Kal-El, Clark.
Right.
He was like, hey, let's be good, let's do good things, let's be, wise with our powers.
Right.
We want to help people, not destroy things.
Right. Jonathan and Martha Kent found him in their field in Smallville, Kansas. That's the connection to us.
Yes.
Right. And there's even a whole series called Smallville that's based off of that. And John Schneider, who played Bo Duke, actually plays Jonathan Kent. Anyway,
That's awesome.
and again, it depends on what story arc you want to follow. But the most widely accepted one is that they found him in their field, and this is where it varies a little bit. Either they found him in a field, or they were driving along the road and they saw that they hit, and so they turned off the road. They found his spacecraft. They took him home, whatever.
Yeah,
and then they raised him as their own. But Jonathan Kent was absolutely the driving force behind always do good, be morally right, yada yada. And the most widely accepted way that his powers developed was that when he was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, power started showing up, and that's when Jonathan and Martha Kent were absolutely telling him, hey, you can't show the world, you are special, we know how you got here.
Right. They're going to take advantage of you. And
yes, and they will. The government will take you. And
right.
I think they use the words "they" will take you.
They.
And you will not be able to be normal from that point on.
Yes.
Or at least be able to portray the image of normality.
Well, and then that came into play, like where he got the Clark Kent identity and became a reporter in Metropolis as he was just a newspaper editor, right?
Daily Planet. He was a again, depending on which one to follow. Yeah. He was a reporter.
Yeah. That's where he met Lois Lane.
Lois Lane.
Whoop, whoop.
So a little side note again, Jerry Seigel was married when they were doing the whole Action Comics thing, and they had a model come in to be the physical embodiment of Lois Lane, and that's where they based her off of.
Sure.
Fast forward 10 years down the road, Jerry Seigel is divorced. He runs back into her, and he ends up marrying Lois Lane. They get married.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's a fun.
Right.
That's a fun fact right there.
Full of them. I don't know if they're fun, but I got facts. I'm killing Ron over here.
Perfect.
And then some other fun facts I kind of saw on it. So they're actually coming out with a second movie on this, John Carter of Mars. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie. I've never read it.
Taylor Kitsch.
But they were talking about, because I mean, there's different versions as you were talking earlier of Superman. We had the bald guy. We had the some of the ones like he was a metahuman. Dating all the way back to 1933, I think we talked about in the reign of the Superman.
Yep.
And just having all these different ones, but that's where it got to where he is now is from Edgar Rice Burroughs is the guy's name that wrote John Carter of Mars, and that's where Seigel liked the idea of a guy coming from space or coming from a different planet.
Right.
And then that's where that kind of took off, and then he even took some ideas from Gladiator from Hugo Danner. I don't know if you know that guy.
Yep.
But just kind of
the whole. I know that guy.
Yeah. Okay.
Hugo Danner, God.
But that was where he got the whole like super strength and all that.
And he was absolutely pulled from different thought processes. And as Action Comics continued on and turned into DC Comics, the powers evolved, kept pulling from others. He originally couldn't fly. Originally, he didn't have super cold breath. He didn't have X-ray vision. He had heat vision. And
what could he do then?
Super strength, super speed,
just strong,
right?
Yeah. Strong and fast.
Well, and it's able to leap over tall buildings in a single bound. That's from
not flying.
That's from the pre-flight days.
Sure.
Yeah, he could
kind of like he was Hulk at first.
A lot closer to Hulk without the anger.
Yeah.
He didn't get stronger the angrier he got. He was just strong.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the reason that the way they found out that he had super strength was Jonathan Kent was working on the truck on the farm. The jack fell. Jonathan Kent is stuck under it.
Hey,
Clark lifts it up with one arm to rescue his dad, and then they start, figuring things out from there. He was late for the bus, sprinted to the bus, got there in a matter of seconds when it should have taken a minute.
See, and that kind of stuff I feel like should have that makes me want to really follow that idea that he gradually got
It was an
those
evolution of powers.
right?
It wasn't
Yes.
just an instant.
It wasn't
Just
just a
boom.
hey, he's here. The sun has no effect on him anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's
Or
when he goes outworld, he goes. Most stars, according to comic book lore, are yellow stars, but there are the rare ones that have the red stars and then the white stars and whatever.
Sure.
And Superman has no powers, and he can't even approach them. Krypton, the planet when it exploded, kryptonite came with them. I don't know how Lex Luthor keeps finding all the kryptonite, but whatever. But it takes his powers away because it's his home planet. He turns normal. So, Lex Luthor originally was the main bad guy, and he was, he's blessed with super intelligence, and so he figures things out quickly and ways to defeat Superman and on and on and on.
Right.
So Ryan had alluded to the different eras of comic books. The initial one, which they weren't really comics. They were one cell, one frame cartoons.
Like Family Circus?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In that same concept.
Right. Yeah.
But they were traditionally politically based. You can go all the way back to Revolutionary era to where you can find propaganda made in cartoons in one cell frames.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But that's not considered comics.
Right.
And a little side note, comic book is 2 words. Comic books is 1. Stan Lee coined that because he said if you look at it as 2 words, it makes you think it's a funny book.
Right.
Whereas when he pushes them together,
it's now a book.
It's now a thing. It's an entity. It's a property.
I like it.
So the Victorian era is considered the first age of comics. So you're looking at 1842 to 1897. Can you name anything that came back from that time? No, because it was really politically charged. It was, at the time of the Civil War, so there was a lot of division that was created with it. Very racist tones because of the era that it was.
Makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah, and there was really nothing. People weren't getting famous doing it. They were putting them in newspapers as filler. Yeah. But they were all politically based because everybody was serious back then. Next, you had the Platinum Age. So then that's 1897 to 1938. What happened in 1938? Superman. Superman is considered the beginning of the Golden Age, which would be 1838 to 1956. The Platinum Age is when you get the Phantom. It's when you get more of these comic strips, not comic books.
Yeah.
So that's really the big difference between the Platinum and the Golden Age, is that they were strips, not books. You didn't have superheroes. They were Westerns. They were storytelling, but in a comic form.
Gotcha.
In a drawn form.
Sure.
So then you get
illustrations.
Exactly. Then you get that word's weird. Then you get to the Golden Age, 1938 to 1956. Standard size of comic book was established during that time, maximizing the number of comic books they could print off of a single sheet of paper, about the number of pages they could get from a single sheet of paper,
sure,
without wasting a lot of paper. So also they found that set better on the newsstands. They didn't hide each other. They didn't cover magazines because you had Life, you had Harper's Weekly, you had all these different giant format magazines. And these could all have their own section. They could all stand up. They didn't take up a lot of space, and they didn't overlap and cover each other to where you couldn't see what was on the covers. So again, there is a reason behind everything with a comic book.
Yeah.
Everything from the layout to the size to the type of paper they use. And they used a thicker, more durable paper than a newspaper because they knew that they were gearing them towards kids.
Yeah.
Kids weren't as clean as adults. So
what?
they could I know, right? So they could withstand more punishment.
Sure.
Same thing with the cover. The cover was not the same paper that they used for the actual storytelling, because that was what took more of the wear and tear, most of the abuse was the cover itself. So it was a slicker material so that the dust would not settle into it and yellow the pages up or yellow the cover up. That's where most of the brighter colors were, because they wanted to attract the attention. They wanted to attract the eyes. Kids would see it.
Right.
So again, there's a reason behind it. There's a method to the madness, all that good stuff.
I like it.
1941, what's going on? World War II.
Oh yeah.
No, the second one.
Yes.
Yeah.
World War II. For those playing the home game. Focus shifts to promote war bonds, promote Americanism.
Yeah.
because they're trying to sell bonds to pay for the war effort.
Right.
Aimed at soldiers to keep the morale up. So the storytelling
Because we're patriotic, right?
Right. Which is where you get Captain America.
I was getting ready to ask that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you
hindsight, it all makes sense.
Right.
Hindsight, you kind of go, I see what they're doing. I get it. But at the time, they're just these heroes.
Right.
That you go, oh, what's Cap going to get into now?
Right. So on top of that, they dialed down the superpowers because they did not want the American soldiers to think that there was actually somebody who had these powers, or that there was somebody that was coming to save the day, or that all these things. It was just to keep morale up. So they made a more human than superhero change with that. Once the war is over, the focus was shifted to Westerns and detective subject matters thanks to a gentleman named Frederick Wortham, MD. He convinced the American public, and more importantly, he convinced Congress that the American public, that the comic books were being the absolute cause for social breakdown, that they were the cause for the faltering of the American way. Really,
So are video games and social media.
Right.
Subscribe.
Right. Please like, subscribe, share, all the good things. Look in the upper right corner. Tells you what to do. Dynamite drop in, Monty. But he really, it was the comic version of McCarthyism.
Sure.
It was a very communistic way of keeping the public at bay, keeping the public under the government's thumb.
Yep.
So what they came up with was the Comic Magazine Association of America in 1953, which led to the Comic Code Authority. So basically, they were the FCC of comics.
Okay.
They were the
comic book censorship.
Right. And so they had to pass this rigorous list of things before they could be put into production. Mm-hmm. They had to have government approval. Basically, the government was controlling what the population could read. So Comic Code Authority was set guidelines and rules that govern the content of comic books in the United States from the 1950s to the early 21st century. That's how long it stuck around.
Yeah.
Guidelines were established by the Comic Code Authority, self-regulating organization created by the comic book industry to address concerns about the impact of comic books on juvenile readers.
Right.
Again, you control the children, you control the way that they think, then you can control the populace, then you can control the country.
Everything. Yeah.
Again, McCarthyism, communism.
Right.
So, comic books had a number of specific guidelines, often referred to as the code, that they had to follow. There was 11 of them. We'll go through these quickly. I know we're running out of time. Number one, crimes. Policemen, judges, and other respected figures should not be portrayed as criminals. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Fair.
Okay.
2, horror and the supernatural. Scenes dealing with horror and supernatural should be handled with care, avoiding excessive violence and gore. Again, not out of the realm of thought process.
If it's for kids, let's keep it decent.
Right. 3, drugs. The portrayal of drug use was strictly prohibited.
Again, makes sense.
Right.
I get it.
4, respect the authority. The code emphasized the importance of portraying authority figures and institutions with respect. Again, nothing online, right?
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
Yeah.
What are you catching with all of this? A lot of gray area.
Yeah.
A lot of room for interpretation.
No, there is.
Okay.
But be a good person.
Right.
Yeah.
Governments aren't dumb.
Right.
No.
People that push an agenda are not dumb.
Yeah.
No.
That doesn't make them right. It just makes them not dumb.
Sure.
So, 5, race relations. Racial and ethnic groups should be portrayed without prejudice or negative stereotypes. This is one clearly that evolved.
Yeah.
Because in the 1950s, white Aryan nation, it was all, stupidism. And we obviously came to our senses and understood we're all humans.
Right.
There's one race.
Yep.
Yeah.
Human race. So, number 6, vulgarity and profanity, crude and offensive language was not allowed. Clearly, if you've read the Walking Dead graphic novels, that changed. So, I keep going back to that one because it was so groundbreaking.
Sure.
There were others that had, Spawn had
Spawn.
Graphic scenes, a lot of crude language. Anyway, let's see. Number 7, illicit sex, sexual innuendo, and explicit scenes were to be avoided. Gray area.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they could really evolve that around so much. Let's see. Number 8, sensationalism. How can I say sensationalism?
But you can't say illustration.
I cannot say illustration or publication or do math. Anyway, sensationalism. The use of lurid and sensational material for the sake of sensationalism was discouraged. So much gray area with that one. What is sensationalism?
Yeah.
I can tell you what Webster says, but that's not my interpretation if I'm the government.
Right.
Exactly.
I can wrap that in.
Or you're part of one government agency, but you're not part of another one, and they don't see eye to eye on what sensationalism could potentially be.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's see. Terrorism and torture. The use of terrorism and torture for storytelling purposes was restricted. If you look at early Captain America comics, he beats the hell out of Nazis. He tortures some
But
Nazis.
that's what we wanted the Americans to, right.
Right.
I was going to say that was what we wanted.
Right.
Yeah.
It fit the American agenda.
Yeah.
But once
Hindsight.
the war is over,
Can't do that anymore.
we can't do that.
Right.
That's bad. So, number 10, divorce. Divorce should be treated lightly, and the subject was to be handled with care.
Sure.
The creator of Superman was divorced.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right, but that wasn't the American dream
No.
at the time.
No.
That wasn't the married with 2.5 kids and
right.
white picket fence. It wasn't.
Clarence's parents have a real good marriage. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
So,
But that's
again,
the thing.
you're trying to push your morals upon
Right.
juveniles.
How often was marriage even brought up in comics, though? I don't know that I.
Oh, often. I mean, it was.
Was it?
Really?
Was
Yeah.
it a thing?
Yeah.
Because I feel like all
Okay.
those superheroes wouldn't be married, and they're almost. I mean, they have their love interests, but they don't want to get married for protection.
Well,
for their
and
protection.
the general idea of it, there wasn't marriage, but if you read through the story arcs, I mean, Lois Lane and Superman were married multiple times, depending on which story arc you follow. Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. Peter Parker marrying,
Nice.
marriage and kids and
The whole
all
thing.
the things.
But it works.
If you follow a storyline, Superboy is Superman's kid.
Yeah.
If you follow another story arc, Superboy was somebody who came down from Krypton in a slower spaceship and got here, and so he didn't age because he didn't come here soon. Whatever.
Sure. But yeah, like Ron was saying, it always works.
Right.
They got
and
married
writers-
and then they stayed married
right.
because that's what happens.
But the supervillains always attacked because that was their weakness.
Right.
But like all these rules, all I think of is the Watchmen, who broke all those rules.
All the rules. Yeah. All the rules. So again, another graphic novel.
Yeah.
Great one.
Yeah.
Rorschach is a fantastic, complex character. Yeah. Number 11, religion. The portrayal of religious figures and beliefs should be handled with respect and without ridicule.
Fair.
I
I don't really know that I disagree with any of those, especially with comic books being
Right. But
aimed towards kids, and I understand where the basis for a lot of them. Yes, that gray area can lead to a lot of other control and brainwashing ish.
right.
Yes.
But I can see where the root of each of those.
But that's the
those
thing is that
codes.
there's so much gray area. On the surface, they all look fine.
Right.
Yeah.
But the amount of gray area that they had, and they were the ultimate decision on if a comic book gets published or not,
True.
Right.
it leaves them to be the ultimate
But
authority.
the devil's in the details.
Absolutely.
How do you drive a car? You get in, you put the key in, you turn the key, you drive. It's that easy.
Yeah. But it's not.
Or it's not.
right.
You know, and anything can be that easy. How do you make dinner? Well, you heat up ingredients, you put them all together, you put it in front of the kids, and they complain that they don't want that.
Yeah. When they told you that that's what they wanted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I get it.
Yeah, but it's not that easy.
Right.
First, you have to go through and what sounds good for dinner. I don't know. I don't care. Whatever. Oh, I don't want that.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine.
Cool.
So,
Chick-fil-A again. It is.
right. So it's important to note that the comic book authority or the Comics Code Authority lost its influence over time. And by the early 21st century, most publishers have just abandoned it.
Right.
Yeah.
It really, the 60s countercultural movement really took a lot of the air out of their sails. The baby boomers kids were absolutely, free love,
Right.
just damn the man, save the empire, all the things. They were really the driving force behind it. And obviously it took time. It was another 45, 50 years before it lost complete grip on, what authority it really did have. But over time, you if you watch the evolution of characters and the introduction of characters, you can see that they really lost their foothold on the authority.
Well, and that's kind of I think comic books aren't unlike a lot of other things that first had these agendas, and we're going to push patriotism, we're going to push be a good American, but then the audience has got it vested in those characters, their stories, and wanted to be a fan of Superman, a fan of Spider-Man, a fan of something. And it's less what the comic books have to say about those agendas and more about the characters. It's like you see with sitcoms in the 90s didn't really address what happened in previous episodes of sitcoms. And then all of a sudden, if you don't watch the whole thing all the way through, you don't know what they're talking about with all their inside jokes or the references to past things.
Right.
And that's even just sitcoms.
Well, it's, they talk about Friends, how looking back now, Friends of all sitcoms.
Right.
There are so many parts of that there that are considered offensive now.
Sure.
It's just the evolution of.
Which is crazy because I felt like that was a pretty tame show.
Right, exactly. So
The Office could not have gone on the air today.
Oh, I love The Office.
absolutely.
Yes. Nice.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
So to put a stamp on it, to put a timestamp on it, the last major publisher to officially drop the comics code was DC Comics in 2011.
Okay.
They were the last major publication.
They finally said that enough is enough. We're going to do what we want.
No, we're good. We're going to do our own thing.
Sure.
Makes sense.
So
Cool.
keep in mind that the original comics, during the golden era was, it was really a representation of what America should be.
Yeah.
And then you get to 1960s, 1970s, it was a driving force of what America wants to be. And then you look at the comics now, and it's a representation of what America is, or what the world is now.
Right.
We went from being the embodiment to being the vision to being what it is.
Yeah.
So comics really do have a very strong telling of the foot of the country, or the foot of the world right now.
Right.
It really does tell you how things are if you look at comics now. And it really is, we're so desensitized that
Right.
it's crazy. Again, go back and look at the Walking Dead. Look at, it's like, would they have ever produced that in the 80s, in the 70s, in the 60s? God forbid, in the 50s and the 40s, you would never see that kind of violence, that kind of gore, that kind of language, that kind of
but it's
apocalyptic
so
thought.
accessible now that I was having a conversation with my wife this weekend, and I made the comment that I'm the 16-year-old kid that I was isn't the 16-year-old kid that's today.
Right.
And
agreed.
It's just not. I didn't have any world visions, any gray knowledge of what was going on outside of my little suburbia.
Yeah.
Because that's what I had access to and what the news told me. And that's it.
Right.
When I was 16.
Well, it's we talk about, with the twins, Em is absolutely the most responsible person in our house. And it's not because we're irresponsible people.
Right.
We've been blessed with that good of kids.
Right.
And have that worldly of a view. And again, they're 15, so they're 15-year-olds, a lot of what they do. But
right.
But it's I was nowhere near that at 15, and Dee wasn't either.
Of course. Yeah.
So
but that's the thing. Like the kids nowadays are not the kids of
exactly
the 80s, the 90s. When I was 16, I was 1996. I was No, I was 13. Anyway, you know what I'm saying.
And see, math is hard.
Math is hard.
It's so hard.
But that's the thing. Like the comics of the 40s wouldn't have the strength that they today that they had then.
Right. So keep in mind the Comic Code Authority was really driving the subject matter of what these could put out, how they could put out. And what it really did was it created a kid-friendly era of comics. So the golden era ended with Casper, Beetle Bailey, Archie, Richie Rich, and Wendy all being created, which those are titles that we all know.
Right.
And do you know anything about the Wendy comic? No. But when I put it in that that list of other comics, you can probably tell me exactly what the comic was about.
Right.
The overlying tones to it.
Right. Richie Rich.
Who it was geared towards.
Totally know the story of Richie Rich.
Yes.
Right. So the Silver Era of comics, 1956 to 1970. We've rabbit-holed a lot on the Golden Era. Let's get a little more focused, gentlemen, shall we? Right.
Okay.
So 1956 to 1970, it started with the publishing of DC Comics, which is Detective Comics. Showcase number 4 with the introduction of the modern, I can't say modern, but I can say, anyway.
Yeah.
The modern version of Flash.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Everybody knows Flash.
Yep.
It really went back to the sensationalization of superheroes, superpowers, doing good, still having complex problems, still being a two-dimensional product, not just a cartoon.
Yeah.
So a representation of the populace. So CCA was a dominant force during the Silver Era. Only Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman were still published under their own titles. So of all the comics that were created in the Golden Era, wiped out of having their own comics. They were put into books that had multiple comics in them, not graphic novels, but you would get 3 and 4 different comics in one comic book.
Gotcha.
So again, only Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. And if you think about during the Golden and the Silver Era, they were very It was very projection of do good, follow these morals, eat your vitamins.
Right.
Brother. It was a lot of
brother.
It was a lot of this is what we want you to be. We are not complex characters. We do good.
That's it.
We fight the bad guy. End of story.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Near the end of the Silver Era, the underground comic movement began to pick up steam due to the strict rules of the CCA. So, of course, the 1960s, 1970s, like we talked about, it was all about protest. Dan the man, down with Vietnam, down with McCarthyism, all these things. And so, of course, you're going to have these people that are going to create underground comics. They're going to be sold back alleys, on the newsstand. They would get a deal with a local newsstand, and then it would pick up steam. Obviously, they didn't have the internet, so it was just word of mouth, and then they would become production and push throughout the country. But a lot of it was not necessarily anti-government, but anti-government themes.
Sure.
So underground, if they were to get caught, they would be prosecuted. They would be pushed as communists. They would be pushed as all these.
How extreme that goes is ridiculous.
Exactly. All these extremes of what, when really they were just trying to be a voice of the public.
Yeah.
So, then we get into the Bronze Era, 1970 to 1985. Bronze Age retained many of the conventions of the Silver Age, with traditional superhero titles remaining the mainstay of the industry. However, a return of darker plot elements, storylines more related to relevant social issues such as racism began to flourish during the period. This is when you get the introduction of a Black Panther. You get the introduction of a Luke Cage. You get the of the X-Men, which were a very diverse collection of superheroes with their human backstories.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was really a push in the social movement of equality throughout the races, equality throughout the genders. You get a lot of very strong female characters outside of Wonder Woman, who was even still a very reined in version of what a woman should be. She stood up for good and everything, but when you put her together with a Superman or a Batman, she fell to who they were. Well, now these female characters are being pushed to the same the same level of what a male superhero was, and accepted by the public.
They could hold their own.
Yes. That is the main thing, is that they were accepted by the public.
Yeah.
In that same level of equality. The modern age, which is 1985 to present, so this would be our era of comics that we all think of when we think of a comic book. During approximately the first 15 years of the period, many comic book characters were redesigned. So this is when you start getting multiple story arcs. It doesn't just follow a common theme.
Sure. Keep it interesting.
Yes. Creators gained prominence in the industry. It wasn't just a Superman comic. It was and not just a Batman comic. It was, you would get a Stan Lee, you would get a Todd McFarlane, you would get an Eric Larson, you would get a a Jim Lee, you would get all these. They would know who came up with the storyline now.
Sure.
Independent comics flourished. Larger publishing houses became more commercialized. An alternative name for the period is the Dark Age of comics because of the dark undertones. This is when you get the Dark Knight version of Batman.
Sure.
This is where you get
the real dark Gotham City.
This is where you get the Watchmen.
Yes.
This is where you get all of these darker tones, these more
real.
Exactly.
The gritty stuff.
Yes, exactly. You get humanization of characters, situations, even though you're dealing with superheroes. They are very much. They have depression. They have thoughts of suicide. They have loss. They have
exactly.
The self-doubt. Why am I doing this? I can't do this.
Exactly.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Thus, the Dark Age of comics. That doesn't mean that it was a bad time. That doesn't mean that it was a
I think it's more real.
Lower publishing.
100%.
Exactly. It was a darker tone. It was a more accurate representation of what
everything isn't kittens and butterflies.
Right.
No. Like you said, that just that story arcs of say Batman, am I getting too old for this? Am I
Right.
am I the right man for this? And that's when it
Exactly.
becomes real. And that's when it, like you said, becomes relatable.
Yeah, but Batman also doesn't have. He had money.
True.
He's a billionaire. Yeah. Wayne Enterprises.
Yeah.
Right. But he had, and it's funny because Superman and Batman are the two sides of a spectrum.
Yeah.
You've got Superman that can do
Superhuman abilities.
literally everything, and Batman that has money and a drive to just do good because
I don't know if I'd say good. In the beginning, yes.
he has drive to do not bad.
If you look at our background, it puts a humanization above each. And
I can't see it.
I can.
Fine.
I'll take it down for a minute later so you can still hear us because of course you want to hear it. But above Superman, it's justice. Above Batman, it's vengeance.
Okay.
They have differing drives.
Sure.
So, at the time, as we talked about earlier with Jerry Seigel and Joe Schuster, there was no such thing as intellectual property. So these artists that were producing like an X-Men comic that produced 8 million copies, they were getting paid a salary. They didn't get any royalties. They didn't get any kind of.
They got to keep their job.
Right. They got to continue drawing more comics. But what they were getting was notoriety and fame. So they were going out to do a Comic-Con. They were going out to do these comic book signings when they would release a new issue, and they would get paid a what's the word I'm looking for?
Like a signing fee.
A representation fee.
Yeah.
They would be there. They would get paid a fee to do it, and then they could take tips and do all kinds of things. But they weren't getting any kickbacks from the Marvels, the DCs, those type of comics. So,
Sure.
So then you have a Todd McFarlane and Eric Larson, Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld. Who am I missing? Wilson Portacio. I can never pronounce his name. Mark Silvestri and Jim Valentino. They all worked for either Marvel or DC. Todd McFarlane being the driving force. If you don't know, Todd McFarlane started illustrating the Amazing Spider-Man in the late 80s.
Okay.
Came up with his own character called Spawn. Marvel did not want to put it out, so he said, screw you guys, I'm going home and I'm taking my comics with me. And they said, those are ours.
Right.
You cannot take them. You cannot develop them. You cannot publish them for fear of legal action taken against you. So they all banded together and created a company called Image Comics. This is what is considered the Image Revolution.
Okay.
What they did was they decided that, okay, Ron, you can have Engine Comics. Ryan, you can have Chiefs Comics. And I'm going to have, my Red Sox comics. I'm my own publishing company. I own all of the things that I create in those publishing companies, but they will be pushed out as Image Comics.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what they did was they gave the artist, the writer, the designer, the ability to make money on their intellectual property. And if and when they were to ever leave, that is still their property. It is not Image Comics. Image Comics is just a platform to push it out to the world.
Cool.
It's your property.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why it's the Image Revolution.
Gotcha.
Stan Lee worked for Marvel Comics until pretty much his death in 1995. He was a part of when he was 95 years old, not 1995. numbers. We all know
Again.
I have an issue with numbers. Just leave that be. But he still did not own Spider-Man. He still did not own Thor. He did not own any of these comics. They were property of Marvel. He was the designer. So you have Todd McFarlane who created Spawn. He was a big driving force for the Amazing Spider-Man, which is a different story arc. So you got the Dark Knight Batman. This is the Amazing Spider-Man. If you watch the movies, Amazing Spider-Man is Garfield. I can never remember his first name. Andrew Garfield. He is the Amazing Spider-Man story arc of it. So Eric Larson was big on Teen Titans. So you have Hawk and Dove. You have Robin when he split
that
away.
Blew up pretty good.
Right. He turned Robin into Nightwing, I believe. Yeah. I always want to say Darkwing, but that's
Darkwing Duck.
Exactly. That's why I go there. The Scourge of the Night. And then he was, when he was with Marvel, he had Thor. He helped with the Amazing Spider-Man. And then he went over to DC for a while, as a lot of these artists did. They went back and forth, and he was part of the Adventures of Superman, which is a different story arc of Superman. Jim Lee was another one with Marvel Comics. So he was part of the creation of the Uncanny X-Men, which became a spin-off cartoon series.
Yeah.
Okay.
He created the character Gambit.
Yep.
If you know who Gambit
throws the cards.
We both did the same.
Yep. He was a big driving force behind. So we know the Punisher. There was a story arc called War Journal. So where they went back and he flashed back a lot to when he was in Vietnam and how he got to be who he was. So he was a big driving force behind that one. Then you had Rob Liefeld, who is the one who really took the rock star persona, if you can call an artist a rock star, but he lived the life. When he came away from Marvel, he became that rock star guy. He was the one that really pushed putting out multiple characters because I'm going to make more money. I can do more showings. I can make more, signings, all that good stuff. He created, if you watch Deadpool 2, he created Cable. Which was Josh Brolin's character in Deadpool 2. So that's one of his creations. He created Hawk and Dove. He created the X-Force. He was a driving force behind the New Mutants. This guy had his hand in everything, and he looked 12. So he was the first one to actually leave Image Comics and test if I leave, can I take my stuff with me?
Right.
See ya. Take your stuff. Go. And he ended up coming back later on. It was, giant egos, and they came back and, had a reconciliation, and then
nice.
It was who it was.
Makes sense.
Then you have Will Portacio, Portacio. He was a penciler, but he penciled Punisher, Uncanny X-Men, Batman Confidential, and Spawn.
Nice.
So he had his hand in everything. That dude was talented. Then you've got Mark Silverstreet, who is also a penciler. He was part of the Uncanny X-Men. He came up with Wolverine and Witchblade. Those are two of his creations.
Nice.
So you're picking up that these are big hitters.
Yeah.
That said, screw you, Marvel. We're going to do our own thing, and produced all of these giants.
Yeah.
On the you can't really call it the independent scene, but they weren't the big two.
Sure.
So, and then lastly, you got Jim Valentino. He was an editor and publisher for Image Comics, but
it's fine.
It's all good. But what he did when he was with Marvel was he was one of the ones that created the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Ooh, that's a big one.
So again, another big hitter.
Yeah.
When he stepped away from there, he became the editor. He was the one that put most of the money into the beginning of it. So they created Image Comics. The big thing that they did, once they stepped away, they created the rights for the artist. The first big signing that they brought in was Robert Kirkland. If you don't know that name,
sounds familiar.
He created The Walking Dead. If you have Amazon Prime, the animated series Invincible, he created that. It's fantastic. Can't think of his name. The guy that plays the editor-in-chief in the Spider-Man. God, why am I drawing a blank? Anyway, he's the voice of the main character.
Okay.
J. Jonah Jameson.
He was the embodiment of J. Jonah Jameson. Can never remember his name. Anyway.
Oh, well.
So founded in the 90s. And I've got so many notes that just mean nothing to most people. It's just dribble. Robert Kirkman.
I'm most people.
Yes. So when we talk about how they stepped away from the CCA.
Yeah.
Robert Kirkman's first comic book that he put out was called Battle Pope.
Interesting.
Battle Pope.
Pope. Yes. So religion. Fun fact about The Walking Dead. So when he presented it to Image Comics, he said, "Hey, I want to do this zombie comic." They're like, "No, it's just another zombie comic." And they wouldn't take it. He kept pushing. He kept pushing. He said, but it's not a zombie comic. Zombies are part of an alien takeover of the world. And they said, "Let's go." And so then the other guys come up to him. They ask him and said, "Hey, so what's this about the aliens?" Like, "There's no aliens in it. That's just how I got to get in the door." So he lied about what the subject matter was going to be about so that they would print it. And then to his benefit, to his vision, it became one of the biggest graphic novels of all time.
Right.
And it's in black and white. And it got to turn into one of the biggest series with 2 other spinoffs of all time. So his vision was right, but he had to lie about what the subject matter was just so they could even get in the door.
That's funny.
So he's like, "Oh, it's part of an alien takeover plot. Saddle up." Yeah, just JK.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
So when are these aliens coming?
Yeah. and that's what they kept asking. And he was like, "It's issue number 135."
Yeah, it's part of the deeper plot.
Yes. Yes.
I just never got.
We got to build before we get there.
Oh, JK.
Yeah, that's funny. That's kind of awesome.
Yeah. So, let me go over a few of the names, and then we'll talk about one other subject, and then we'll wrap this up because I know we're running really long. I'm sorry, Karen. So, with Marvel, you've got Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and then you've got John Buscema. Everybody knows Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. They created most of the Avengers.
Sure.
Amazing Spider-Man, Thor, Hulk, yada, yada. John Buscema, I don't know how you pronounce it, Buscema, helped create the Avengers, and then Baron Zemo, some know him, some don't. If you've watched The Winter Soldier, Baron Zemo is the psychiatrist, whatever, that is trying to get the Avengers to turn on each other.
Gotcha.
Civil War, that's the one that it's on.
Is he the one that's in the computer?
No, he is the one that creates the EMP that turns off all the power, and he impersonates the psychiatrist to talk to the Winter Soldier, and then they go to Siberia or wherever, and he's the one that Black Panther should have killed, but then he takes him to prison instead. Okay. You haven't seen him, so yeah. So anyway, he's also in Falcon and Winter Soldier. He actually turns into kind of a anti-hero and helps them out. And anyway, spoiler alert. Then you've got,
it's not.
Yeah, you've got Jill Kane, who created the Green Lantern, Adam Warlock. Then you've got, so there you got DC and you got Marvel. Gene Colan, he created Howard the Duck. Yes, that is a Marvel entity.
Really?
I do remember hearing that.
Created the Carol Danvers arc of Captain Marvel, and then also created Falcon and Blade.
Okay.
That is a Marvel product as well. Which Marsala Ali is supposed to be portraying Blade in the reboot of it, but that's in reproduction hell.
Wesley Snipes was so good as Blade.
Wesley Snipes was the original, right?
Yeah.
And Marsala Ali is taking over and looks to be the part, but we'll never know. So then you got John Romita Sr. He created Mary Jane Watson, created Kingpin, created The Punisher, helped create Wolverine.
Nice.
These are all mostly Marvel guys.
Yeah.
Then you got his son, John Romita Jr., who created the Hobgoblin, created Justin Hammer, created Kick-Ass, which was a movie, but it was a comic beforehand. And then he co-wrote World War Hulk, which if you want to read a comic that is just insane, read the story arc of World War Hulk.
Okay.
You have Gray Hulk, Red Hulk, Yellow Hulk, Green Hulk. You have Gladiator Hulk. You have Professor Hulk. You've got the Incredible Hulk.
What?
It's awesome. It's so much nerd in one story arc. So, yeah.
No, I had no idea.
There's too much Hulk going on.
Yeah, it's a lot of Hulking going on. And then you've got Frank Miller. Some of you may know that name. Created Daredevil, created Elektra. He was a driving force behind Batman Year One, which is what the new Batman movies are based off of. The one with Robert Pattinson. That's based off Batman Year One. His big contributions was he created the comics of Sin City.
Oh, yeah.
And believe it or not, 300.
Okay.
Oh,
so the loosely fictional, based movie that started Gerard Butler is actually based off of a historically based comic book.
No way.
And if you think the movie was graphic,
Oh, I bet. I bet
That's awesome.
yeah. So with DC, you've got Jerry Seigel and Joe Schuster. We talked about them. You've also got Neil Adams, considered one of the top 5 Superman artists of all time, because obviously there's been multiple,
Right.
over the time, multiple artists have drawn him. George Perez, which is a penciler, most notably known for the Avengers, Fantastic Four, Justice League. That's how he gets into DC. His big foothold was Justice League. So you've got Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Aquaman, Flash, Martian Manhunter. If you go into the comics, you've got the Wonder Twins. You've got all these.
Are you pulling all this from memory?
I'm looking directly at you when I'm.
Good God.
He's good.
Are you talking about?
We knew today was going to be his day.
You talking about just the Justice League or what they're known for?
No, just you just going bam, 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 and just knowing this. I don't know
that's
how you.
Well, but you could probably do it with an engine.
Yeah,
We'll see.
fair.
Yeah, turn it over. Ryan could do it with beer.
Well,
Of course, so could I. But
Yeah.
that's not the point.
Yeah. That's
I have multiple nerd realms in my repertoire. I'm great at trivia. I'm just saying.
proud of you.
And then you've got Brian Boland. He created Judge Dredd and also was the driving force behind Batman: The Killing Joke. If you don't know what that is, there's a comic book. There's also an animated movie about it. It's where, spoiler alert, the Joker kills Batman.
Oh,
Ooh.
And it's how Gotham and actually how the Joker continues on after his main adversary is dead.
huh.
He probably falls apart.
If you have nothing driving you, if your muse is not there, Batman was the Joker's muse in creating all of his mayhem. It wasn't just he wanted to be evil.
Yeah.
Right.
It was him getting back at Batman getting back at him. It was a back and forth. So,
Huh.
Lastly, I want to talk about, and this will be a very short segment because it's just cosplay. For those who don't know what cosplay is, it is going to a comic book convention and dressing up as your favorite comic book character or movie character or video game character or whatnot. It is costume play.
Right.
It was coined in 1984. It was a Japanese term because the Japanese are very big into cosplay.
Sure. But what I heard in one of those documentaries from people that are making the appearances there,
Yeah.
everybody that goes there as a fan is just the nicest person.
Oh, yeah.
They could not be more accepting of anything, and they are apps. And you see everything from people just going to a thrift store and buying things that look like their favorite character to people that make multi-million-dollar costumes.
Oh, yeah.
But they're the nicest,
Awesome people.
most accepting people ever.
Yeah.
And the people that go there to make the appearances and see their fans, all their fans are fans.
Yep.
Yes.
There's no
Diehards.
hate. There's no nothing. It's just, I love what you do.
If you can ever get tickets to a Comic-Con, they have a lottery for it. That's how. And they bring in millions of people, and you still have to win the lottery to even have the right to buy tickets to it.
Maybe someday you will.
No,
Oh,
I don't want to pay those prices.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
that's when a lot of the big movie and the big comic announcements come out as Comic-Con because it's the
Yeah.
biggest comic book convention.
right. You get the most
Every year.
people.
Right.
Right.
They have the panels where you go through and you talk to the stars, to the writers, to the directors, the creative forces, the actors, all that. But the cosplay level is through the roof. There are people that build their costume for years just to go to Comic-Con one time
That's
and
crazy.
show that out.
Crazy in a good way.
Yeah.
I have nothing negative to say. I think
They put the fan in
something I
fanatic.
say might be taken negatively, and that's not the intention.
No.
That's crazy.
Right.
Crazy awesome that they have that kind of dedication to be able to just make things as perfect and as detail oriented.
Precision.
One guy said that he made a
Just
costume out of 1,100 reference photos.
Yeah. 1,100.
What?
Right.
I'd get over it after looking at 11 photos of it. Go, yeah, I think I've got an idea.
Yep.
No.
I think of one. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Now, some of them are so convincing that it's nuts the way they can do the makeup. And like you said, they're just building the costumes, or there's some people get into it just so much that you're like, I'm convinced.
It's a lifestyle.
Like you are that character.
Yeah, it's a
That's
lifestyle.
you.
It
are
is.
that
They are
person.
the embodiment of said character in their brain.
100%.
So let's go ahead and wrap this up. We went super long. Thank you for those that stuck to it. We tried to be an hour. We're now at 2 hours and 3 minutes, not including the dark show in the beginning. That's my fault.
Thanks, audience, for sticking around.
No kidding.
Thanks, Doob Doob. So let's get to today's big takeaways. Since last time I started with Ron, we'll start with Ryan this time.
Yes.
What's your big takeaway from today?
That the comic book universe is so vast and so big that unless you're in there, like you're part of that, like it
Bro,
kind of blows my mind.
We talked story arcs. We didn't even get into the multiverse.
That's what I'm saying. You have all these multiverses.
We didn't even get into the multiverse.
That's what I'm saying is you have just so many versions of your favorite characters.
I could do 2 hours on my own about the multiverse.
Yeah, you could.
So, Ron,
You just did.
no,
Yeah.
you might think I did.
No, I know. No, I think the biggest thing that I learned was just that nothing's impossible.
Right.
And it's not that it's storytelling or it's fairy tales. It's things that you can start to truly believe in. And it's a moral, it's a value, it's a something that you don't have to think that you know what's going on to be a part of it.
Right.
Now, to get into comic books and to jump in right now, I don't think I could.
It'd be overwhelming.
It would take you a decade to get up to speed with where you're at when you started.
Yeah, and
then the
that's
evolution.
what
happens in that time?
That's the only issue that I have as far as comic books and the comic book world is.
It's fast.
Yeah,
it's so vast.
And really, what people do is they pick their favorite characters, their favorite.
Yeah, but even then,
companies,
there's just so much.
There's so many versions of that one character.
But even that, they subscribe to one version of it. Well, the Dark Knight is my favorite version of the Batman compared to Batman Year One compared to yada yada yada.
Sure.
So there is the biggest thing that I've. We'll get back to that. It really is whatever you want to make of it.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
My big takeaway is really that these artists, these designers, these gurus got screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
very true.
And there's the big movement is to get them the money, the recognition that they deserve.
Right.
So
give them some kind of legacy.
Right.
More than just notoriety.
A monetary legacy.
Right.
Yeah.
Pay them what they're worth.
Right.
So thank you for those of you that paid attention through the whole 2 hours. As I get choked up because it was a good show. The Dark Show was amazing. I wish you guys could have been there. But we will be back in 2 weeks. That is Super Bowl Sunday. I'm fairly certain that's going to be our last early morning show. We'll work on a time. We'll let you guys know through the socials. Put links up to the two documentaries that a lot of this is kicked out from. And more than anything, like, subscribe, share, and spread the word. Help us grow. Help us be able to do this for more than just fun.
Yeah, exactly.
might have a logo coming out in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
Might be able to drop into some merch if we get so ambitious. But more than anything, it's been fun, guys.
Yes.
So we will see everybody in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Quickly, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.